What is my laptop daily driver? That's a question I consistently get in the YouTube comment sections, and I don't have an answer for you. I really don't. I've been home for 2 years. The only time I go out is to the office and I have a custom desktop PC to use. And when I go home, there's another desktop PC that I use there too. Usually, if I was traveling, I'd have some sort of 15 or 16-inch notebook with me. Sometimes it was the Lenovo X1 Extreme, others the XPS 15, and more recently, before the M1 came out, it was the MacBook Pro 16. But there's one laptop that I consistently go back to on a daily basis. The one I use at the kitchen table, the one I use on the couch, the one that just feels great. And that's the MacBook Pro 13. And before I tell you why this laptop is so great, I gotta give a quick shout out to Best Buy, the sponsor of this video, because they have some amazing deals going on. Like right now, if you're going back to school, you can pick up the MacBook Air with 8 gigabytes of RAM, 250 gigabytes of SSD for $899. If you're more of a Windows person, there's the Dell XPS 15 with an i7 11800H with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 3050 Ti for $1599. This is $300 off from $1,900. Now, if these are a bit too pricey for you and you want a 2-in-1, the HP Pavilion 2-in-1 X360, which is a 14-inch convertible, and it comes with this 11th gen Intel processor. It's an i5, can be bought today for $729. Right now, this is $100 off. Finally, take a look at the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro, because in typical Samsung fashion, they've already discounted it quite nicely. You can pick up an i7, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 13-inch AMOLED display for $1,049. This was usually retailing for $1,200, so you're getting about $150. If you're interested in any of those laptops, there'll be a link in the description down below. Now, this is not going to be a technical review. This is not scripted. This is just my feelings. And look, this has been a great, consistent experience. That's how I like to describe this laptop: consistency. I open it up. I know my battery hasn't drained from the night before. If I don't use it for a few days, I might lose like 2%, but I know that if I left it at 50%, I'm not going to wake up the next day and have 0% left. So battery life, solid. If you're someone who's looking at benchmarks and Wi-Fi rundowns or video rundowns, I don't find those to be realistic. Now that I've used this for about 7 to 8 months, my experience has been like this. I use about 10 to 12 tabs open in 2 separate browsers, so 24 tabs. I sometimes use Photoshop. I have Discord open, Spotify playing. I'm doing your general everyday stuff, Microsoft Office. And I find that I can consistently get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of use before needing to charge. That's actual work, not a Wi-Fi rundown. And to me, that's impressive. And I can consistently do this. It's not like one day it's 6, the next day it's 2. It's always around the same. The one thing I don't like, though, is how dirty the display gets. Because the display touches the keyboard, the grease from your fingers, the dust that accumulates in the room you're in, gets on top of the keyboard, and then when you close the laptop, the display touches the keys and there's a lot of dirt and grime. I find that I have to constantly clean it every few days, and that's kind of annoying. The port situation, which I've gotten used to on most MacBooks, still bothers me, okay? I'm a guy who likes using gaming mouse. Some of them just use dongles, and I always have to remember to carry a little converter to connect to the USB Type-C port. Not a big deal if you're using Bluetooth, but it's something that still bothers me. Thankfully, based on the rumors we've seen, that's probably going to be changed with the new upcoming MacBooks that are forecasted later this year. Performance has been exceptional. Like I said, I don't do a lot of video editing on this, but I can feel confident that if I need to jump into one, this thing is going to be able to handle it. Like, I wouldn't use this as my daily driver just because the GPU power is not there, but if you're someone who's using Final Cut Pro, you can basically run your business off this. For example, another YouTuber, Justin, he uses a lot of M1 Macs now because he uses Final Cut Pro, and they're able to handle it fine. But because I use Adobe Premiere Pro and DaVinci, Premiere Pro doesn't run that great on this. Better than the Intel Mac because of all the optimizations and the full version that's available now, but Premiere Pro is still such hot garbage in terms of software optimization that it's still not a great experience on this. DaVinci, on the other hand, is a bit better. I found it to be a better experience, and I love the fact that if I quickly need to edit a video because I'm not around my main desktop, it could do it. It's just I wouldn't want to do it all the time. Now, yes, the bezels around this display have been, talked about quite a bit, and there's a refresh coming, so there's that. But once you start using this after a month, you don't even notice it, right? Like it just kind of blends away. You're working on that beautiful 16:10 display, which today still has better brightness. It still has better color accuracy than a lot of other laptops that are priced at the exact same price point. So there's that. And the audio. Like, why are there not Windows laptops, except for maybe some Yogas, that have the same audio quality as this MacBook? I just feel like speakers are not super expensive to buy, especially when they're this small. Why can't other manufacturers match the sound quality of these external speakers? They're just too good. Now, since we're talking about performance, it doesn't matter if this thing is plugged in or on battery. I know I'm going to get the exact same results. And 90% of Windows Ultrabooks just can't do that. You want to get the maximum performance out of your Windows notebook, it usually has to be plugged in. There are some Windows Ultrabooks that can do it on battery, but most need to be plugged into an outlet. This is massive, you know, like you're at a coffee shop or you're somewhere and you don't have your charger on you and you need to do something that's very demanding. You know and feel confident that you'll still be able to do it with the exact same performance as if it was plugged in. The keyboard, thank God they went back to scissor switches. I don't feel like any of these keys are going to break on me. Super comfortable to type on. Not my favorite keyboard, but it's definitely in the top 5. Touch bar, I could live without it. You know, it doesn't bother me or not bother me. It's just there, but I could live without it. Touchpad, it's still the gold standard. There's a few Windows notebooks that are pretty much the exact same in terms of accuracy now, but it's still one of the best touchpads I've ever used. Webcam. It's still a 720p webcam. And look, you want a great webcam in your computer, it's just not happening right now because the bezels on these displays are so thin that it's impossible to put the same type of sensor you have in your smartphone in a laptop display. There's more thickness in your phone, so there's more depth to place the sensor. But at least Apple's trying to use AI to process the data to give you a clear image. If you were to compare the webcam on this guy, even though it's the same hardware, to an Intel MacBook, the AI that this thing is using makes a big difference in terms of the overall picture quality. Honestly, I know this is a very boring my experience review and I wish I could tell you something revolutionary, but I think that's the point. When something is so boring, it means it's great. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. It's consistent. You know, everything works as it should. There's not like one bad component that's inferior to the rest of the laptop. Sometimes you'll buy a product and then they'll stick the speakers on the bottom and the sound becomes tinny. Sometimes you'll buy a product and the keyboard sucks. I don't think anything truly sucks on this thing, you know? Maybe the port situation, that's about it. But for the most part, it's doing everything I want it to do and I know I can rely on it. Now, if you're thinking about buying a MacBook Pro 13, I honestly still think you should get a MacBook Air instead. Like I said, the price is better, the performance is the same, and the extra money you pay for a MacBook Pro I don't think is really worth it. If you need something more powerful than this, then there's tons of great Windows Ultrabooks, or you can wait for the more powerful M chips coming out later this year in upcoming MacBooks like the MacBook Pro 14 or the MacBook Pro 16. So that's it. MacBook Pro 13, 6 to 8 months later review. If you have any questions about this product, let me know in the comment section down below. Links to all those Best Buy deals will be there too. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.